Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of So What You Saying. My name is Tom.
And I'm Sean. It's good to be back.
Today, we're going to be ranking all of Metallica's studio albums. So we'll start at the beginning. Kill 'Em All. This, in my opinion, is one of the best debut albums for any band, not just in metal, but of all time. I think this is a very solid start from Metallica. I can't even begin to imagine what it would have been like in 1983 hearing this album for the first time. It has the raw power of punk mixed with the heaviness of Motorhead, mixed with the melody of bands like Iron Maiden and Judas Priest. Standout songs for me are The Four Horsemen. I love No Remorse, probably my favorite song on the album. I love Metal Militia. I think that's a great way to end the album. Whiplash, another song I absolutely love. If I have to pick a song I don't really listen to that often, and this may sound odd coming from a bass player, but I very rarely listen to the bass solo Cliff Burton performed on this album.
Sacrilege,
Anesthesia.
Tom.
I know it's sacrilege to most people, but it's something I don't really go out of my way to listen to much, if at all, these days. I also find Seek and Destroy to be one of Metallica's most overrated songs as well.
Well,
It's
that's it. Video finished. Goodbye.
don't get me wrong, I love hearing it live, but I never go out of my way to listen to it on the album. Production, not terrible, considering this was their first album. I don't really have that much else to say about it. I listen to it fairly often. I don't consider it a masterpiece, though, considering some of the albums that are to follow this, but I'm more than happy to put it in great.
I would certainly put it in great myself, but it's probably the album from the 80s of theirs that I listen to the least. Opens really strongly with Hit the Lights, just like here we are Metallica. This is what we do. So I think for an album opener, brilliant. Seek and Destroy, how dare you? So I kind of get what you're saying because with Seek and Destroy, it was one of the first Metallica songs that I'd heard. It was this and Enter Sandman, who were sort of like the early songs that were getting me into the band. It's always a good live sort of party song now, I think, Metallica with all the, the Black Beach Balls and all that stuff. So I really enjoy that song still. Whiplash for me is one of my favorite Metallica songs in general. It's just got that balls to the wall thrashy sound that I really like from this album. James's vocals on this are actually quite like screamy in some parts, which he never really goes back to after this, or very rarely goes back to, which is a shame. I would put it in great. I think it's a great way to kick off their discography. But there are other albums after this. Well, the next one, which I think is a lot better. So I'm happy to put it in great as well.
Kill 'Em All, you go in great. Another thing to point out about this album, Dave Mustaine's influence is all over it. There are a lot of songs on this album which Dave Mustaine co-wrote. Phantom Lord included, Metal Militia's one. I think The Four Horsemen's the other one, which he would later on release as Mechanics on
Yeah.
Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good. Okay, moving on. We have the follow-up to Kill 'Em All, Metallica's second album, Ride the Lightning. I'll just cut to the chase. Ride the Lightning is my favorite Metallica album. It's been my favorite Metallica album for a long time now. It's not only my favorite Metallica album, it's one of my favorite albums of all time. We're talking top 10 albums of all time. Every single song on this album, bar than one, is a 10 out of 10. That one song, it being Escape. That being said, I still think it's a really good song and I never skip it. The song Ride the Lightning has my favorite guitar solo from Kirk Hammett. I think that's an amazing guitar solo he does. It just goes on and on and on, but in a good
Yeah.
way. The song Fade to Black might be my favorite song of all time. It's definitely up there. I rate it that highly. Creeping Death is my favorite Metallica song to watch them perform live. I think that's such a great. You can put that song anywhere in the set and it just works. I also like the fact that Metallica took some risks with this album. They had the balls to stick a ballad on this album,
Mm.
which a lot of people accused them of selling out at the time. They also had a go at creating an instrumental, that being Call of Cthulhu, to close the album. They even started to introduce slower songs, like For Whom the Bell Tolls, even opening the album with an acoustic piece of music. So it sort of tricks your audience into what on earth is this? And then that riff from Fight Fire with Fire comes in. I also think the artwork is great as well. I mean, I absolutely love this album. It's a masterpiece for me.
You've got some of the most iconic songs to this day on this album. You mentioned it already, and like you say, yeah, it's a slow one, but it's a classic. For Whom the Bell Tolls. I must have listened to that at least thousands of times. I don't really get bored of it. Trapped Under Ice, another one. People go, Metallica never really were that thrashy. Fight Fire with Fire and Trapped Under Ice. Come at me, bro. Seriously. That is just another face melter. And it's the vocals are quite simple as well. It's just James just thought, I'm going to spend my time just shredding on this song and do minimal vocals for the minimal effort on the vocals, because with Fade to Black, like you say, as a ballad, yeah, so what? It's great. I think it's got everything that's good about a metal song, really. If you sum it all up, it's got the heaviness towards the end. It's got good, clean parts at the beginning. It's got good vocals from James. It's got an amazing solo from Kirk. Creeping Death, like you say again, absolutely brilliant, especially live with the die, die, die. It's just, I can't help but just smile every time I hear that.
James and Lars are just obsessed with writing about death at
Yeah,
this point in time. It
yeah,
was
yeah,
like they were obsessed with talking about it. Fight
yeah,
Fire with Fire,
yeah.
Fade to Black, Ride the Lightning, For Whom the Bell
Creeping Death,
Tolls, all related to the theme of death. So Ride the Lightning, masterpiece then?
yes, absolutely. Okay, I'll listen to that all day long.
Moving on, Metallica follow up Ride the Lightning with another masterpiece, that being Master of Puppets.
Yeah, so this is quite a special album for me, not bragging or anything, but you know, it was made in the best year ever, 1986, when I was born. Hooray! And again, very similar to Ride the Lightning, it opens up with an absolute corker of just a fast paced, in your face, crushing number in Battery. So, what a way to get this album started. And then straight off the bat, you've got the title track, Master of Puppets. I sometimes forget that song is the second song on the album, because I keep thinking, oh no, they're obviously going to have to build up to this song, surely. But nope, just hits you right in the face with it. You know, I think they've played that since they released this. They basically play that at every single gig, don't they?
Master of Puppets is the song that Metallica have played live the most. I'm pretty sure it is.
Makes sense, because again, it's 8 minutes, but it doesn't really feel like 8 minutes to me, because there's so much going on in the song. It kind of sort of distracts you from the time length. And yeah, lyrically, you know, about addiction, the thing that should not be, which is Lovecraftian horror, and they're kind of going back to their love of Cthulhu again, which I quite appreciate. It's kind of a nice little hint to that. And then you've got Disposable Heroes, which is just another 8 minutes of absolute carnage, again, going to themes of war and the kind of futility of it, which sort of strikes a chord with me quite a lot in songs like that. And again, the soloing going on in that song is outrageous. But I think the production seems to be, I don't know how to describe it compared to Ride the Lightning. It seems a little bit more polished, but it's still got that kind of that raw, thrashy sound.
I think the production on this album is phenomenal. It's
Yeah,
a great sounding album.
yeah,
They're easily their best produced album of the 80s.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And of course, how could we forget Orion, one of the greatest instrumentals again in the genre, as far as I'm concerned.
Orion is Cliff Burton's magnum opus.
Magno, yeah, of course. And obviously, it holds a special place in the heart of the band, because whenever they play it, they dedicate it to him, don't they? So
Yeah, it's pretty much the tribute to Cliff part
yeah,
of the show.
I think this album obviously really cemented them as a force to be reckoned with. There's no way that you can't put it as a masterpiece, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, I personally prefer Ride the Lightning, but this obviously definitely 100% masterpiece.
I think the second half of the album is a lot stronger than the first half of the album.
Mm.
With the exception of Battery, I don't really listen to. First of all, the song Master of Puppets, I think it's a great song, pound for pound, arguably Metallica's best song they've ever written. But I'm sick to death of hearing it.
Yeah, I thought that was coming.
I am absolutely, even live when they play it, I'm like, yay, Master of Puppets. And then I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, I wish you'd play something else. The Thing That Should Not Be is a good song. I think if you're comparing it to the previous album, I think For Whom the Bell Tolls is a much better song. This opinion's probably going to get me some hate. I think Sanitarium is one of the most overrated Metallica songs. I think it's by far the most overrated ballad, for lack of a better word. I think Fade to Black and the ballad following on the next album we're about to talk about are
Yeah.
way better than Sanitarium. That being said, Disposable Heroes is a great song. I love Leper Messiah, one of the most underrated Metallica songs. Ryan's my favorite instrumental, and I think Damaging is just a beast of a song. Has one of my personal favorite Metallica riffs in that song. You know, the middle section, the very Testament sounding riff.
Yeah, the one that set
Lo-
Testament off, really,
yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah. Yeah, absolutely love that song. I
Yeah.
think this album also has my favorite artwork from the band as well, I should point out. I think the artwork, like Ride the Lightning, it's just so iconic. It's just ingrained itself into pop culture. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't really have that much else to add.
Mm.
So Master of Puppets, you go into Masterpiece. Okay, moving up to their fourth album. This is the first album with Jason Newsted. This album for me is incredibly special. You know, there are some albums which you listen to for the first time and they have such a huge impact on you. They kind of change you almost as a person, or certainly how you perceive music. So the first album that I had that with was Abbey Road by the Beatles. The next one was Thriller by Michael Jackson. And the next album was this one. It was my introduction to heavy metal, in particular the song One. First time
Mhm.
I heard that song, I was just completely and utterly blown away. I didn't realize a song could be that long or have that sort of sound to it or lyrically talk about things like that or play at that speed. I was just completely and utterly in a trance when I first heard that song. I really am fond of this album. It's got many flaws to it, don't get me wrong. Like the production leaves a little bit to be desired. I know the bass is virtually non existent in this album. That being said, I consider And Justice for All a masterpiece. This is the peak of Metallica's musicianship, in my opinion, as well. I think this is the best they have ever been as players. James Hetfield is a rhythm player. Kirk Hammett was taking lessons from Joe Satriani at this time.
Mm.
Jason Newsted, although you can't hear it, if you listen to his bass solo tracks, his bass playing is phenomenal on this
Yeah.
album. And I think Lars, he must have taken drum lessons during this period because his drumming in this album is really, really strong as well. I think easily the best drumming he's ever put on an album. This is easily Metallica's most progressive album as well,
Mhm.
but it doesn't really feel like it outstays its welcome despite its length. So yeah, in my opinion, masterpiece.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this has got Metallica's best opening song in their discography. Just my personal opinion, it's my favorite Metallica song anyway, and that's Blackened. The music kind of fades in and builds up, and then you just get that smashing snare sound coming in. And yeah, it just goes to Hellfire to Leather from that point onwards. And I agree with you that it's definitely their most progressive. It's got so many different little sort of twists and turns in most of the songs, especially the title track. And
Mm.
again, it's kind of a mirror image to Master of Puppets, where you get a massive, you get a face melter opener, and then you get this monster of a second track to be like, right, this is what this album's going to be about. We're going to take you on a journey here, folks. Lars's drumming, I think, is the best that he's ever done on any album before or
Oh
since
yeah,
this.
oh yeah, definitely.
Like you say, you can really tell either he's been taking lessons or he heard whatever Dave Lombardo was playing and thought, right, I need to step my game up here. And he really did. I can't fault him for that. One absolutely iconic song. Not only the song, but the video as well was one of the
Oh, I
first.
love them. Thanks for reminding me. I love the music video
Yeah,
for that
it's
song.
unbelievable. Unreal. And again, it just kind of highlights the futility of war.
This album has four of my favorite Metallica songs of all time on it: Blackened,
Yeah,
One, The
yeah.
Frayed Ends of Sanity, and
Oof,
Dyer's Eve.
yeah.
Just
Oh,
amazing songs.
you talk about like progressive but face melting riffs, man. Like they must have been. You could see that they were properly like speeding up in parts on this. But then you've got Harvester of Sorrow, which I think is a proper mid pace banger as well.
Oh,
Especially when,
another song I prefer hearing live compared to
yeah,
listening to the
especially
album
when
version.
they pause and they go back into the verse. Yeah, it's a shame that what happened to the bass happened to the bass in this album. Especially from your point of view, being a bass player, I can understand that. I think I've kind of gotten used to it.
When the remaster of And Justice for All was announced, everyone was like, are they going to release a version that has Newsted's bass in it? So you get the version with how it was released, but on like, side two or side three or
Yeah.
whatever. You have a version which has the bass in it, so you can pick and choose which version you want to listen to. Nope, they didn't do that.
No, of course not. They don't want to
You
give
get,
Nick any credit whatsoever, do they?
yeah, you get what you're given.
Yeah, and you like it, or
Yeah.
else. For a while, this album was my favorite album of theirs. Kind of go back and forth between that and Ride the Lightning. Ride the Lightning just edges it for me, mainly out of the sort of rawness of the sound of it.
Masterpiece.
Yes, masterpiece. And I think that's it. I did have a point. It's gone now.
Moving on, we have the album Metallica, or as everybody calls it, the Black Album. I find with this album, people either love it or they absolutely hate it. I mean, it really is Marmite. I happen to be one of those people that love it. I'll just put that out there right now. I don't think it's a masterpiece. I do think it's a great album, though. I think the production on this album, I think it's one of my favorite produced albums of all time. Sonically, I love how this album sounds. The guitars, the bass plays quite an important role in this album. I think Lars's drums sound incredible on this album. They sound huge because this is the first album they worked with Bob Rock. Strip everything back, write tighter, shorter, more focused songs, no long instrumental parts. Clearly, with this album, they were looking to reach a wider audience. And it was certainly successful because my mom, my dad, even my late grandmother really enjoyed songs from this album. Enter Sandman, although it had a huge impact on me when I first heard it, I absolutely loved it when I first heard it. I honestly cannot stand it anymore. I appreciate the fact it's a really good song and it's a very important song for Metallica, but I just can't listen to it anymore. That being said, I think Sad But True is a banger. I love Holier Than Thou. The Unforgiven is one of my favorite Metallica ballads. Wherever I May Roam might be my favorite song from the album. I also love the songs that appear later on in the album, like My Friend of Misery.
When you compare it to the first four albums, it's definitely a change of tact, like you say, which is fair enough. You know, they're branching out a little bit. There's people that I know that can't stand metal, but they know that Metallica wrote Enter Sandman. Do you know what I mean? They're like, oh
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, no, I kind of like that one. If I had to put, I had to pick, kind of thing. So you can tell the reach it had. I really don't like Nothing Else Matters. I'm sorry. I know that's a lot. I know that's a big contentious song, but a lot of people love that. But I don't know. It just bores me. Sorry. Of Wolf and Man, I really like. I think
Oh,
that's
great song. Completely forgot about that song. That's an absolute banger.
yeah. I love everything. I think James's vocals on that song particularly shine out on
Mm,
that,
mm, mm.
and I just love the subject matter. I'm a nerd for that kind of supernatural stuff. So yeah, that's pretty cool. The whole werewolf stuff.
It really brought heavy metal to a massive audience, which
Yeah,
then opens you up to listening, checking out bands like Slayer, bands
yeah,
like Megadeth, bands like even going back to listening to bands like Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and Motorhead, etc. So one of the most important heavy metal albums ever made, for sure.
definitely. And it bridges different genres. Like you could have someone who's not really into metal, but they like rock and they love this album. And
Mm.
you could have someone who's into metal and love this album. Like you were saying about the drums sound so heavy in this album.
Oh, it's great. I mean,
Like,
they spent like a year recording this album. They spent
yeah,
so much time in the studio
yeah.
trying out many different drum mics, guitar
Mhm.
mics. Yeah, I mean, it just went on and on and on. It felt like it was never going to get made at one point.
And I think the choice to with the album cover to keep it really simple and the album title, whether you take it as just Metallica or the Black Album, kind of sets like it's almost like a reset while still keeping some things that people are used to.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And
they definitely entered a new era
yeah,
of their careers here.
I think vocally this is James's best album in
Oh yeah, yeah,
terms of
definitely.
because I did like the rawness of his earlier stuff, but he actually properly sings on this album, which he sings in key.
Bob Rock got him to do harmonies. Up
Mm.
until that point, James had never done a harmony with
Yeah,
himself. And Bob Rock was like, "You've never done harmonies before?" He's like, "No." Well, you're gonna do them now.
really now, yeah, and you're going to
Yeah.
be very rich now as a result.
Even though it's a commercially friendly album, some of the lyrics are
Oh
so
man,
bleak on this
they're
album.
still they're still properly going dark. I know James has like sort of done a lot of self reflection on this album, hasn't he? With
Mm.
obviously with Nothing Else Matters, but then that's by the by when you've got stuff like The God That Fell, which I believe is about his mum passing away or his mum getting ill, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
yeah, I don't really go back to it as much as I used to, but for the success that it had and the statement it made, going like especially for them going forward, I'm happy to put it in great.
Metallica or Black Album, you go into great. Right,
Here
here
we
we
go.
go.
This is where it gets interesting, folks.
The thrash metal band that you once knew is now dead. Oh my god, like their image during this period was, I mean, looking back at it now, I can see why people were in such a state of shock when they saw it. I personally listened to this album quite a lot. There's a lot of this album I really do enjoy. I think lyrically, this is some of Hetfield's best work as well. Songs
Yeah,
like Until It Sleeps, I think that's an amazing song. I also
yeah,
love King Nothing. Bleeding Me and The Outlaw Torn are two of my favorite Metallica songs ever written. Like, I feel like I'm experiencing something really special when I listen to those two songs. That being said, for every Outlaw Torn and for every Bleeding Me, you have a song like Cure, you have a song like Ronnie. So this album, it's kind of like a half and half for me. Half of it, I either really love the songs on this album, or I just don't give them the time of day anymore. I also hate the artwork as well. The
yeah,
mixture of semen and blood, I just think it's a really weird thing to stick on your album cover. I know Metallica went through this whole weird, we're going to completely overhaul our image phase during the making of this album. I kind of see Load and Reload as a double disc album, even though they were released 1 year after the other. I think their intention was to release them both as as one album, as a double album. I would put this, considering it's very 50-50 for me, I would put it in the average category.
yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't really listen to it very often. To be honest, I mean, there's a handful of songs that you mentioned. Outlaw Torn's great. Like that is a really awesome song. I mean,
Love
it's
that song.
one of probably up until later. I know it's one of their longest songs they ever did up until that point, wasn't it?
Mm.
It's a good closer. I'll give it that. But there's a whole load in the middle that I just nah, not for me. Mama said, Ronnie. I think they were building on the success of the Black Album in stylistically. I think that's what they were trying to go for. They thought, well, let's just keep going in this direction. Sod it, we're Metallica now. We can pretty much do what we want at this point. I wouldn't say that I really enjoy listening to it all the way through, but there are some decent songs like the ones we've just mentioned. And James is still properly. He's almost got like some sort of like hillbilly Texan accent on on singing some of these songs, which yeah, maybe it's part of like the character he's playing in a few of them. But
James was super into country at
yeah,
this time, and you can tell. You could
yeah,
really
it's very
tell.
much a sort of country metal album, if that makes sense. More hard rock than metal, I would say at this point. I used to think it was total like rubbish, but as I've got older, I've listened to a few of the songs on there a bit more. I wouldn't be as harsh as that anymore. I'd say average is acceptable, but yeah, because I say I can't nowhere near listen to it nowhere near as some of the others and some of the later ones as well.
Okay, so load goes into average. Moving on, we have the follow up to load, that being reload. I kind of touched upon it a little bit when we are talking about load. So, reload to me is a worse version of load. There are
Mhm.
some great songs on this album, don't get me wrong. I think Fuel's a great way to open the album. I
Yeah.
also enjoy Devil's Dance. A lot of people don't like The Unforgiven 2. I quite like that song.
Yeah, I love that one.
I also really enjoyed the last song on this album, Fixer. I don't like The Memory Remains at all. They play that song live a lot. I think it's because of the audience. I think it's
Mhm.
because of the audience participation. But I'm like, please don't play it live. You've got so many other songs I'd rather hear live, and that certainly isn't one of them. And this album to me has some of Metallica's worst songs they've ever written on this album. Like Slither, I think it's a crap song. I don't like Bad Seed, a terrible song. Once again, the album cover, instead of semen and blood this time, it's urine and blood. So, whatever floats your boat, Metallica. Reload to me is a bad album. I don't really listen to it that often. Don't know if I'd put it in terrible, but definitely a bad album.
Fuel for me is the only good song on this album. Well, no, Fuel and The Unforgiven 2 are the only two good songs on this album. Everything else I either never listened to or I just no. It's just like you say, a worse version of Load. It just wasn't for me. And then you can see how it would have been part like a second part to Load. But Load is definitely it's definitely got better songs on it, even if there aren't that many better songs on it than that. Again, unfortunately, I can't really add much to it because I very rarely, if ever, listen to it. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, Fuel. I think it's a great live track as well, especially when they add the pyros and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
They really get behind that song quite well. So, but yeah, other than that, I'm happy to put it in bad.
There's an argument to make with these two albums. If you take the best songs from Load, let's say the
Yeah,
six best songs, and
yeah,
the six best songs from Reload, and put
yeah,
them out on one album, you would have a really good
yeah.
Metallica album
Decent
right
album.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But for whatever reason, I mean, when you write so many songs
Mm,
and you don't basically select, let's say, the best 10 out of the 30 songs you write, because they wrote close to 30 songs during this period, chances are you're going to have more crap songs than good songs, and
yeah.
this is what happened with these two albums. But yeah, Reload, bad album. Not terrible, but definitely bad. Speaking of terrible, uh, we have Metallica's follow-up to Load and Reload, that being Saint Anger.
This is a strange one for me because I got into metal quite late on in life. It was sort of like end of school, beginning of college. So I was hearing on the grapevine that, oh yeah, they've definitely gone back to their harder roots in this. They're kind of ditching the country vibe metal rock that they've been going for the last, well, 10 years, I guess, up until this point. Um, and then I heard Frantic, and it was like, all right, ugh, what's that snare all about? What's going on? Oh my god! Oh, saucepan, biscuit tin. You've heard it all before. And then I was like, okay, well there'll be a solo shortly. No solos. And I'm like, hang on a minute. What is going on here?
Yeah, this album's very much Where's Kirk? I mean,
Yeah,
he shouldn't even bothered showing up to the recording studio.
no. The thing is with this album is that it is heavy. It's just not good. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, there's okay, frantic. The unnamed feeling I quite enjoy. I thought it had a quite.
That's my
I like the riff.
that's my favorite song from the album, The Unnamed
Yeah,
Feeling.
some kind of monsters, all right. I think I prefer the documentary over the song, to be quite honest with you. Everything else is just dog shit, really, isn't it? I mean, sorry, I know this album's been ripped to shreds. People have dissected it to death. I'll just say there's about two or three good songs on this album. I saw what they were trying to go for. It didn't work. The drums just awful. Production terrible. One of the worst produced albums I've ever heard or listened to. Yeah, it's going to be the first terrible, I think.
Yeah, no, I think this is a terrible album. Let me find some nice things to say about it. I think The Unnamed Feeling is a really good song. Saint Anger, the song Saint Anger,
Oh
overall is a
yeah,
good song.
yeah.
That's one of my wife's favorite Metallica songs, by the way, for whatever reason. Thought the video for Saint Anger was badass when they go to
That's
San
the prison.
Quentin. Yeah,
Yeah.
they filmed it in San Quentin. That's a great music video. I also kind of enjoy the last song on this album, All Within My Hands. A lot of people assume it's about Jason Newsted and how he was treated. I mean, if you've watched Some Kind of Monster, you can understand why this album came out the way it did. I
Mm.
mean, they were on the verge of breaking up. They hated each other. They basically had to strip everything back and rebuild themselves again. And the music kind of came second to them rebuilding their relationships, not just their working relationships, but their personal relationships with each other. But yeah, I agree with you. Definitely a terrible album. I struggle to go back and listen to it. Fans have tried many attempts to re-record this album, remaster it, remix it, and in some cases they've really improved it, but the songs just aren't good. They're not
That's
good
it.
songs. Saint Anger, you go into terrible, so I don't think there's any surprises there. Okay, so Metallica followed up Saint Anger with Death Magnetic. Yeah, a much better album. Easily a return to form. Not a perfect album, but
Mm.
definitely better than all their albums post Black Album. I think there are some great riffs on this album. That Was Just Your Life, great way to open the album. I love All Nightmare Long, probably my favorite song from this album. I really enjoy The Unforgiven 3. I know a lot of people don't like this song, but I kind of enjoy it. I think it's quite a nice way to round off the trilogy. Judas Kiss, some great riffs in that song. And
Yeah.
My Apocalypse is a great way to end the album. They also worked with Rick Rubin on this album as well. This is
Mm.
the only album which Rick Rubin produced. That being said, the production, in my opinion, is diabolical. It's not Saint Anger bad, but I hate how this album sounds. I remember when it first came out, the album was so loud and so overly compressed that I was one of those people that thought my headphones were broken because it was so poorly mixed. I know they've done some improvements since then, like the Guitar Hero version. A lot of people say that's the best way to listen to this album.
Yeah.
Also, the first album with Roger Hio on bass. Not that you can really hear him that much on this album. But yeah, overall, Death Magnetic, a good album. It's a bit long. Some of the songs, unlike Unjustice for All, I think could have been trimmed down a bit. It's not an easy album to listen through in one sitting, mainly due to that terrible production. Did I mention I hate the production of this album? And the artwork, yeah, I mean, the jokes have all been made what it looks like, so I'll just leave it there.
They got back there. I think this is E standard, is it? I'm not. I mean, I'm no sort of like tuning expert, but it sounds like more like
Yeah, yeah. I think that was a Rick Rubin thing. He convinced them to
yeah,
play in E standard.
yeah. Thank God for that. Solos are back. Woo! Loving that. Some really
They're,
good ones
they're
on this.
not they're not great solos though.
No, they're not great, but I mean, at least I suppose Kirk was probably trying to remember how to play them again after not being able to play them in the last album. Great closer with My Apocalypse. It kind of reminds me of not to the same level as Damage Inc., but they thought, right, let's just close this on a 5 minute sculpture. So I enjoyed that. Suicide and Redemption, did not really like that as a
Oh no,
that's the instrumental. That's definitely the weakest instrumental.
by
Because
far.
when I first heard that they were doing another instrument, I was like, oh, okay, this should be good. One that's going to hold up, but it just kind of drags a lot for me. You said it was a long album. It definitely feels like a long album. Some songs do drag. The Day That Never Comes. I know a lot of people love that song, but it's all right. But I think it's a tad overrated. While it's definitely an improvement sonically compared to St. Anger, I do agree with you that the production is still a bit of a mess on this album. It is really loud and not in a kind of boomer, oh, it's too loud, it's too much noise. It really just like, if you had the same volume on one of these songs as you did as one of the older songs, it's like night and day. It's just a bit over the top. All Nightmare Long, I think, is great. I think that's one of the best songs that they've written in their discography, let alone in the new stuff. I really enjoy that song. And Cyanide, I thought was an interesting choice. It was the first single, I believe, from this album that they released. And at first, I thought it's a bit more, but over time, I've actually thought that's quite a nice punchy song. So
That's by far my least favorite song from the album.
yeah, no, that's fair enough. But I think James's vocals are back to somewhere close to his best on this song. On it,
Yeah, James sounds great on this. To be honest, James sounds great on all the albums, excluding Saint
yeah,
Anger.
I think it's a good album, but I wouldn't put it any higher than that.
Yeah. Death Magnetic, you are a good album. Okay, moving on. Hardwired to Self-Destruct. It felt like it took forever for this album to come out. Metallica were taking really long gaps in between album releases for whatever reason. Funny thing about this album, the first song they released was Hardwired, which I think is a really good song.
Yeah.
Short, thrashy, to the point. Then they released Moth into Flame, once again, another very heavy, at times, fast, thrashy song. I was thinking, wow, another great song from Metallica. More of this, please. Then they released Atlas Rise, and I was like, yes, this is like new wave of British heavy metal shit. I love to hear this. And then they released Spit Out the Bone, and I was like,
Oh,
Metallica are releasing a thrash album. It's gotta be. Literally every song is like, this is exactly what I wanted to hear from them. And
yeah.
then the
What
album,
parallel universe are we living in when they're
yeah,
actually gone back to the 80s?
yeah, I was like, have they finally listened to what the fans want to hear? And then the album came out, I listened to the rest of it, I was like, no, no, it's not. It's not at all.
No, no.
But I do listen to this album quite a lot. Outside of those four songs I mentioned, Dream No More, I think is a great song.
Mm.
It's slow, it's sludgy, it's heavy. It's a very evil sounding song. I also really enjoy Confusion and Here Comes Revenge as well. I also think production wise, it's one of the better sounding Metallica albums as well. I think the mix is pretty good on this album. There are a lot of songs that I really don't like at all, though. I think Man Unkind is one of the worst songs Metallica has ever written. I think that is a dreadful song. Am I Savage, bar than that really heavy riff that they sort of play halfway through the song,
Mhm.
don't really like it. And Murder One, just a forgettable song. I also despise the album cover as well. But like I said, I listened to it a fair bit. I probably listened to this album more than Death Magnetic, if I'm honest. Not as much as the first five, but definitely more than any of the other albums post the Black Album. So by that definition, I would put it in good. I think it's a good album.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I was kind of hoping this would have this was going to be the album that Death Magnetic should have been, if that makes sense, in terms of the return to form. They definitely refined a few things in this album. Like you say, the production's a lot better. It's a lot easier on the ears. Hardwired, great opening track. With Confusion and Here Comes Revenge, kind of, they almost feel like two sides of the same coin to me. They've got kind of
Mm.
a similar structure to them. Atlas Rise, the harmony in there kind of has a kind of Maiden-esque quality to it. And Dream No More, like you say, kind of reminds me of this generation, Sad But True, arguably even heavier. Lyrically, it's about they're going back to their love of Cthulhu in that one as
Hmm.
well. So it's a nice hark back to some of the earlier stuff. Yeah, I do definitely listen to it more than Death Magnetic, mainly because it is easier on the ears to listen to, and there are just songs on this album that I prefer. I think Spit Out the Bones, one of the best songs that they've ever written.
Oh,
Like,
amazing song.
let alone like in the new stuff, like it could you could put that song in any of the 80s albums and it wouldn't like stick out. It would make sense to be on those albums. But like you say, does have some clangers on it, you know. Man Unkind, yeah, it's a bit just a nothing song really. So I'd say half of it is really good and half of it's kind of just there for me. So I'm happy to put it in good, but like, yeah, I'd say I prefer it to Death Magnetic, but I don't think it's that much better sonically, if that makes sense.
Okay, so we agree with good.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I, I mean, I mean, if people wanted to put in average, I totally get that.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue it.
I wouldn't argue with it, but I listen to this album quite a lot, so in my opinion,
Yeah.
it's a good album. Okay, and the final studio album, that being 72 Seasons. 72 Seasons for me is an album that sounds like it's made up of songs that weren't good enough to make it onto Hardwired. A lot of the songs in this album are very forgettable, and I have listened to it a few times, and the only songs I can recall are the title track, Lux Eterna, and the very last song on the album, which is, I think it's called Inamorata. I think it is Metallica's longest song. There's an amazing harmony section in that song as well. In the middle, it sort of comes down into like a, it's a very Black Sabbath sounding song, and
Yeah,
then in the middle part, it drops right down to like a My Friend of Misery-esque type section. Then
yeah.
it builds and builds and builds, and it just goes into this amazing harmony section. I absolutely love it. I can't recall how a lot of these songs go. So, not a terrible album. I'm sort of thinking it should go into bad, but I definitely prefer it over Reload, so I would probably put it in average.
I mean, if there was a category for completely forgettable, I'd put it in that one because honestly, I listened to this album once and I haven't gone back to it since it was
Oh, wow,
released.
really?
Yeah, I just don't know. I don't. It's a weird one because I don't think it's like bad or anything, but the other than the last song that you mentioned in Nomorata or however you pronounce it, I do get you what you're saying with that harmony section. It's very Maiden-esque in that
Mhm.
regard. I'm just looking at some of the tracks now, and I'm like, can't remember how that goes. Can't remember how that goes. Well, that's probably my fault for not listening to it enough, but I would have listened to it a few more times had it had much impact on me.
Okay, so that's fair enough. You can't really give it a ranking. I was thinking about it as you were talking. I would definitely listen to over Reload and Saint Anger. So
Yeah, yeah.
by that, 72 seasons can go into average. Okay, that was our ranking of Metallica's studio albums. Of course, we're always interested to hear what you have to say, so please leave your own rankings in the comments section below. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content.
Yeah, just thanks very much for continuing to watching and for all your comments so far. All that's left to be said is, so what are you saying, Tom?
What I'm saying, Sean, is everybody have a good day and listen to Metallica.
Listen to Metallica, not Saint Anger.